Well, hello and welcome to all of our viewers around the world. I'm Fiona Lang Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. We're talking about our upcoming Gold Lactation Online Conference 2024, if you can believe that. We're here already. How did that happen? And we're very excited. We are looking forward to having you join us. We've got some great presentations coming up. I have to say again, just when you think you've heard it all, really, there's just more. There's more to know and do in this field. And that's what makes it so exciting, I think, for IBCLCs. People are always asking, can you have a career? And you absolutely can. There's such great opportunity. We say one family at a time, but it goes so much beyond that. There's research and all sorts of amazing things, education. The list is endless. And we have one of our speakers here today who's very dynamic, I have to say. Caoimhe Whelan is here with us today. She's going to be talking about the all-consuming journey, lived experiences of mothers with primary low milk production. So welcome, Caoimhe. It's great to have you here today.
Hi, Fiona. Thank you. And thank you for having me speak at Gold. I'm really looking
Oh,
forward to it.
excited. I
Yeah,
actually got to see you just this past year where were we? In
Ilka
Vegas.
in
Yes,
Vegas.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
right, in Vegas, just outside of Vegas. We had a
Yeah.
great conference and it was great to meet up because we know, getting some time together is so important. And we're so fortunate to have you here at Gold. We're excited because you're going to be here live. So people will be able to come and see you
Yay.
online, come and join in the conversation. And of course, you'll have a live Q&A in the forums and all those
Yeah.
types of things. But I think the live presentations are just fabulous because you get a chance to really sit down with the speakers and learn more and then get into the live Q&A. But today we're going to talk a little bit about you. I really want to hear, I know you've been very busy. I know you are busy, but give me like the synopsis of what you've been up to these days and what's happening in your part of the world.
My part of the world. I live in Dublin, in Ireland, and I work as a lactation consultant in private practice. So I think I'm into my seventh or eighth year now.
Mm.
Prior to that, I was a voluntary breastfeeding counsellor, and I won't even go back into my history. Prior to that, I started my career as an engineer, but like a lot of IBCLCs in private practice, we've had sort of varied pasts. But here
Yes.
here I am,
Yeah.
and last year I graduated from University College Dublin with a master's by research, and I researched women's experiences of breastfeeding with primary low milk supply or milk production.
Hmm.
It was around 2020, I think it was April 2020, we were into our first lockdown here in
Wow.
Ireland.
Yes.
And I probably had too much time to myself to think and ponder. But I suppose I was always interested in what it was like for women who had difficult breastfeeding experiences and in
Hmm.
particular were unable to produce sufficient milk for their babies, women with insufficient glandular tissue, or various other issues which precluded them from being able to exclusively breastfeed. And I started to do a little bit of research on sort of qualitative research on primary low milk supply and discovered that there was very little. So it was as we call in academia, a gap in the literature.
There you go.
So I decided I wanted to do that research.
Hmm.
And long story short, I applied to UCD, was accepted to a master's program, and undertook a qualitative study on women's lived experiences of being mothers, of breastfeeding, and of having primary low milk supply. So it was what we call a phenomenological study,
Mm.
looks at lived experience, but goes quite deep. So as
Okay.
opposed to a study that would have lots of participants,
Hmm.
generally phenomenological studies that look at lived experiences will have a small number of participants. So I had 9 participants
Right.
in my study and interviewed all of these women. And it was, for myself, it was quite a profound experience, really, to discover what it was like for them to be
Right.
in the world as women who had hoped to exclusively breastfeed
Hmm.
and yet couldn't.
Mm.
And sort of the themes that came out of my research were concerned with motherhood, transition to motherhood, of not being able to be the kind of mother that they had hoped they would be, women's emotional experiences of breastfeeding with primary low milk supply, what it was like to be caught up in a regime of triple feeding, and also looked at the mother's experiences of trying to access help and support from voluntary breastfeeding supporters and also from healthcare professionals and IBCLCs. And it was very, very interesting. A lot of I suppose, findings that were new to me. And even as somebody who had done a lot of work with mothers with primary low milk supply, I was surprised by the depth of feeling that so
Mm.
many of these mothers had, and just the extent of the impact of primary low milk supply on their first year postpartum.
Right.
It wasn't just something that they had to deal with in the first couple of months.
Right.
It affected them throughout the first year, and even onto sort of that point at which they started to think about having a second baby.
Mm.
Also, I considered sort of the embodied experiences of being in a body that
Right.
can't make enough milk. So that was sort of my study,
Yeah.
in a nutshell, and that pretty much consumed me for a few years. But it was very rewarding and interesting, and I've actually just published my first paper from my research, so it's so exciting.
That is so
No,
exciting.
do you know what? It really is a big deal for me, because I never would have realized just how much work goes into publishing an academic paper. So it was blood, sweat, and tears, but it's in breastfeeding medicine now. So I'm
Excellent.
really looking forward to talking about my research in my
Yeah. Yeah.
presentation. I think there's a lot of interesting findings that have implications for
Hmm.
how this cohort of mothers and parents are supported.
Yeah. Well, I'm so keen to hear about it. And just to be clear, because I made this clarification with you early on,
Mm,
that this is not PIMS, so this is not perceived insufficient milk supply. This is actually, real, primary low milk supply production, which is
yeah,
hugely
yeah,
different. And I think I'm really keen. I love the human behavior in the
mm,
sense that I always want to know what's happening, and I can't have all the experiences, so they have to, I have to learn and understand. And as a clinician, equally as an IBCLC, I
mm,
really want to know what I can do better, how I can interact and support. And because I think a lot of times we might not see, you talked about, when women started thinking about having their second child,
yeah,
we might not see them till then, or they
yeah,
might call us, or they might be in conversation casually. Because I think that I've always seen this, I've seen these parents before, obviously, like you
mm-hmm.
have. But what type of support can I truly offer? So don't tell me right now, because I know you're going to be saving for some of that for the presentation. But I think that having a deeper dive into this is just
Yeah,
going to be so good. And I think that that's really what you found, was it was so rich in content in terms of things you didn't know or weren't
yeah,
able to completely understand. And this is really just going to be an amazing way to, I don't know, fill up the tool belt again in an
yeah,
area that so many, it seems, women that we see would have this, because being
yeah,
clinicians, generally that's where they end up with, they're going to talk to an IBCLC
yeah.
about it, which is pretty exciting.
And
Um,
Fiona, oh,
yeah,
sorry
tell
for
me
jumping
more.
over
Tell
there.
me more.
No, so you've got me started now, but I think, I suppose, another thing that I felt was important in doing this research was representing IBCLCs in private practice, because there's very little research there, by IBCLCs who work as we
Right.
do in the community
Yeah.
in private practice. And I think we have a wealth of experience and insight that is relatively untapped.
Mm,
So I feel we've a lot to offer, because we are unique in many ways, but one of the ways I think that sort of we stand out from maybe people who work in health services is that we spend so much time
right.
with that person. We have that luxury because we're in private practice, but you
Yeah.
you could spend an hour and a half, 2 hours, and
Sure.
then maybe another hour another time. So
Yeah.
I just know that a lot of IBCLCs in working in the health service are constrained
Yeah.
by time. So I think that just gives us quite a lot of insight into
Yeah.
the experience
No, this
of
will be,
breastfeeding,
yeah,
lactating, and motherhood.
totally. Yeah, no, this is going to be, I mean, awesome just to kind of hear all those things and even talking about the different parameters that we all face,
Hmm.
whether it be hospital-based community or private practice. I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge that we can constantly share.
Hmm.
That's the reality. So very exciting. I'm very excited to hear more and congratulations once again. We can't wait to hear more about
Great.
your publishing.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for spending
Look
time with
forward
me
to
here
it.
today, right? We could have spent another half an hour talking about this, but really, we want people to come. I think that's the big
Yeah.
thing. So go check it out on the website at goldlearning.com right now. You can check out Caoimhe's bio, all the content she's going to be sharing. The presentation is called The All-Consuming Journey, Lived Experiences of Mothers with Primary Low Milk Production by Caoimhe Whelan. Thank you so much for being here today. It's so good to have you. I hope that you have a lovely rest of the day, Caoimhe. And to all of our audience listening in, do join us again. It's always so great to share with you what's coming up at our Gold Lactation Conference. And we will look forward to seeing so many of you online. Bye-bye for now, everyone.